So, yeah.
Hey, Beth, what's going on?
Oh, hey, Marty. This is Christina Koch. She's an astronaut.
Wow.
Hi.
We're doing some math problems on missions to Mars.
Oh, you mean like orbital injection velocities and the thrust to get out of the atmosphere?
No, actually, we did those earlier today.
Oh, well, what are you working on now?
Well, actually, we're trying to figure out how old the first group of astronauts will be when they land on Mars.
Oh, well, can you show me?
Yeah, sure. So right now, NASA has plans for a human Mars mission in the 2030s. So, okay, let's say, pick a number in the middle, 2035. Right now, it's 2017. So how many years away is that? Let's subtract and see. 18 years. So we can say humans will walk on Mars in about 18 years. So let's say you're a middle school student, you're around 11 years old. Let's see if that would make you the right age. In 18 years, middle school students are going to be around 29 years old, which is the exact great age to start a career as an astronaut. So it's entirely possible that the first person to walk on Mars could be in middle school today.
Wow, we have got to talk more about this.
Well, we have about 30 minutes.
This is STEM in 30. This is STEM in 30. Hi, I'm Marty.
And I'm Beth.
We are coming to you today live from the Smithsonian's Stephen F. Udvar-Hazy Center in Chantilly, Virginia.
And today our program is all about women who are paving the way to Mars.
There have been many women that have been vitally important to America's space program, including the 28 women who flew onboard Space Shuttle Discovery that you see right behind us. One of them was Eileen Collins, who on STS-63 became the first female space shuttle pilot. She later went on to become the first commander of a space shuttle.
Also, you may have heard recently that Peggy Whitson had just broken the record for the all-time female spacewalking times. Peggy has walked in space more than any other female astronaut, and she's also in the top 5 of all time.
You may have also heard of astronaut Sally Ride, the first American woman in space. But it wasn't just her. There were a lot of other females that helped get her into space.
Today we're going to take a look at some of those pioneering women and some of the women that we may see on the Red Planet.
We have some great students with us today. We've got some school groups, some homeschool groups, and some Girl Scouts. They are revved up and ready to go. These guys are out of this world.
We want to remind everyone who's watching online that you can submit questions live, and we may take some on the air. If not, we do have an expert standing by to answer them.
That's right. Right now, get your computers out, start typing in the questions, and send them in, and we will be answering them live.
Well, let's take a look at some of these groundbreaking women who are paving the way to Mars.
These vignettes were written by our friends at Stone Middle School. Check them out.
Hello, my name is Bor, and today I'll be talking about someone I truly honor. Her name is Bessie Coleman. Bessie is of Native American and African American descent from her father. She went to Missionary Baptist School and Langston University. She unfortunately could only complete one term as she didn't have enough funds to continue. Bessie found her passion for aviation when she was 23 and began listening to and reading stories about World War I pilots. When Bessie started her career in aviation, it was a time when people were heavily limited by race and/or gender. Coleman took on this challenge and did not fail. Being an African American woman myself, she has shown me that even if things are going against you, if you put your mind to it and work hard, you can accomplish your dreams and goals.
Hello, my name is Susan, and the pioneer I chose is Jacqueline Cochran. Jacqueline grew up in poverty, which may have discouraged some from doing great things, but not her. To her, poverty seemed like a cage trapping her from seeing the world. Because Jacqueline couldn't get an education, she began working hard to earn money at a very young age. By the age of 13, Jacqueline had become a skilled hairdresser. This led her to greater opportunities in New York and at Miami, which was where she found her pathway to being an aviator. Jacqueline was the first woman to break the sound barrier and set 73 flying records in the course of 3 years. In the 20th century, many people thought women couldn't do things men did. This only prompted Jacqueline to prove them wrong. Flying meant everything to her, and she would become the best regardless of gender. If there's something you're passionate about, then go for it. Life is about pursuing you and your goals. Your life isn't owned by anyone but you, so take that chance and fly towards your dreams.
My name is Carson Coleman, and I am very impressed by Katherine Sullivan's career as an astronaut. I was astonished to find out that Katherine Sullivan was the first American woman astronaut to step out of a spacecraft and walk in space on October 11, 1984. Katherine Sullivan was born on October 3rd, 1951, and is currently 65 years old. Katherine graduated from Taft High School and then went on to the University of California at Santa Cruz, then received her doctorate at Dalhousie University in Canada, before joining NASA as an astronaut. When Katherine retired from being an astronaut and working at NASA, she had been in space 532 hours. Katherine is a great inspiration because she did one of the most dangerous things in the world and did an amazing job while doing it. This means a lot to me because it shows that I can overcome my own fears. Katherine is a great role model and an amazing person to look up to because she proved to us that we can accomplish anything we put our minds to.
We are joined by Abigail Harrison. You might know her better as Astronaut Abby. She is a college student who a long time ago set her sights on becoming an astronaut. Abby, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Marty.
Now, let's get this straight. You are not an astronaut.
Nope, not yet, but
You're trying to be.
exactly. Watch out in 5 to 10 years and you might see me in space.
Now, why do you want to be an astronaut?
For me, it's always been about the joy of discovery. So this idea of going somewhere that we've never gone before, seeing things that we've never seen, and really making discoveries that will hopefully benefit humankind.
What kind of things are you doing to prepare yourself to become an astronaut?
The most important thing that I'm doing to prepare to become an astronaut is education. So I'm getting an undergraduate degree in astrobiology and Russian. I'm also training as a scuba diver. I'm training to run a marathon. I'm learning Mandarin Chinese, and I just recently started training for my private pilot's license.
You've got just a few things going on, but flying, is that something that
Those aren't even my hobbies.
does that ever get scary, flying?
It's a little bit frightening at the beginning, in the same way that driving a car is, because it's a new experience and there's a lot more that you have to pay attention to. Rather than just having forwards and backwards and left and right, you suddenly have 6 degrees. You also have up and down that you have to be watching. And so that's a little intimidating, but once you get used to it, it's really not very frightening.
Wow. Now, you've also founded the Mars Generation. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Mars Generation is a space and STEM advocacy group. So we work to inspire and excite young people, especially about space exploration and why it's important to the future of humanity. Something that we're really starting right now is our Student Space Ambassador program, which is where we're inviting students ranging from elementary school all the way up to college. So that means all of you and hopefully everyone who's watching as well to come join us at themarsgeneration.org as student space ambassadors to their communities.
Nice. Well, you ready to take some questions?
Absolutely.
All right, so if you've got questions watching online, be sure to submit them right now. We're going to start with a video question.
Hi, my name is Ellie, and I was wondering how long the trip to Mars will take.
How long is it going to take us to get to Mars?
So the current estimates with the technology that we have today is about 6 to 8 months to get to Mars and the same amount of time to get back. However, a round trip to Mars is estimated at about 3 years. And the reason for that, there are a couple of reasons, but one of them is that we've traveled so far to get there, we probably want to spend a little bit of time on the surface also, right?
Might be a little bit of science to do that.
It almost seems like there's a reason we're going.
Yeah.
The other one is that we have to wait for the trajectories of the 2 planets to line up well, because we don't want to be traveling when they're on opposite sides of the sun, obviously. That's just making it harder on ourselves.
Makes it a little bit harder. All right, let's go to an online question next. How old do you have to be to become an astronaut?
Pardon. So this is a little bit surprising. So surprising that I coughed. That in order to be an astronaut, you really only have to be 18 years old. So you have to be a legal adult citizen of the United States to be an astronaut with NASA. However, most astronauts aren't selected until their late 20s, early 30s, at the earliest usually, because of all that education that I was talking about earlier. You really have to work hard to get up to that level.
And the degrees are in STEM fields, but it's a wide range, right?
Absolutely. You can really study anything within the umbrella of STEM. ranging from the example that we like to use is veterinary sciences all the way up to astrophysics, anything that you are passionate about.
That's really cool. All right, well, we've got a student correspondent in the audience, Ben. And Ben, do any of you guys have some questions out there?
Yeah, we do have some questions. The first one is from Isaac.
Can you make food in space?
Can you make food in space?
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, how would the astronauts eat up there? So there's a couple ways we can look at that. You can definitely prepare food in space. That's what we usually do, is we send pre-prepared food up to space with the astronauts that they can then consume there. But something that they've recently been working on as well is growing food in space. So everything from growing potentially algae that we could eat, because that's a great source of protein and nutrients, also to growing more normal seeming things like lettuce. So they have grown and eaten space lettuce on the International Space Station. And hopefully that's something that we'll get to do on the trip to Mars as well.
And maybe they can grow a little like space basil and make some space spaghetti.
That would be quite nice, yeah.
All right, Ben, do we have another question in the audience?
Our next question is from Jack.
How many people work in the International Space Station?
How many people work on the International Space Station?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The International Space Station has a capacity that can hold anywhere up to 9 people at a time. However, the least amount of people that are on there are 3. Usually they average that out and keep a crew of 6 astronauts on the International Space Station. Something interesting about that is that I would bet that every single one of you in the audience has been alive. Your entire life that you've been alive, there has been at least 3 astronauts on the International Space Station. That's kind of a crazy thought, isn't it?
Absolutely amazing, because I'm old enough to remember when that wasn't the case.
So am I, honestly. Well, I don't quite remember it, but it happened.
Thanks. All right, so we recently got a chance to talk with astronaut Christina Koch about some of the training that she's done to help prepare for a long-duration space flight.
So in my career, I've had the chance to work in Antarctica over several different seasons. And I think that's been really helpful in preparing me for some of the things I've come across so far in my training and that I hopefully will come across on a future mission assignment. And one of those things is how to work in novel environments. When I was working in the Arctic in Greenland, I used to have to climb towers in temperatures of around -50 or something like that and make repairs to scientific instruments at the top of these towers. And sometimes those repairs actually involve soldering and real delicate work. And obviously you have multiple layers of gloves on. So learning how to be patient and how to get the job done when you have not a lot of dexterity, you're in an awkward physical position, and you have to have a lot of focus and overcome some of the things that might not make you the most comfortable in that situation. It's a lot like spacewalk training. You're in a spacesuit in spacewalk training, you have huge pressurized gloves on, you can't actually feel anything in terms of the dexterity and the touch sensation on your fingers, but you have to still find a way to get the job done, despite all of those things that aren't comfortable and that might be trying to distract you from the focus that you need.
One of the things that's going to be really important for a future trip to Mars are spacewalks. And Beth has a few friends helping her. And remember, submit questions. We will use them later. But right now, let's go over to Beth and some spacewalkers.
Thanks, Marty. I am joined by Katherine. She is one of the explainers here at the National Air and Space Museum. Katherine, do you want to tell me what explainers do here for us?
Yeah, of course. So the explainers program is here at Hazy and also at our downtown mall building. And we are high school and college students that are just really interested in STEM. And we have discovery stations and demonstrations that talk about science and technology and how they relate to the artifacts that we have here in the museum.
And do you want to introduce our guinea pig friend here?
So we have got Annika here, and she is going to be simulating a spacewalk. So of course we're not actually in space. We're going to make it seem like she's in space by having her sit on this wheelie chair and not touching the ground at all. So she'll have to be actually pulling herself along these rails here. And she is double tethered onto here. She has a camera on her head, just like our astronauts do. And you can see what she's looking at right now. So say hi to our camera guys. That's just what we have on our actual astronauts so that mission control knows what our astronauts are doing and then they can see what's going on. So what she's going to do now is move herself down to do a spacewalk. So she is going to move her tethers along. And let's see. All right. There we go. All right. So how's that going?
Pretty good.
Pretty good? Yeah? What's challenging about it?
Probably unlocking them.
Unlocking them, yeah. So when we have our gloves on our spacesuits, they're pretty thick. We really don't have a lot of mobility in them, but they're actually the thinnest part of our spacesuit. But it is a little bit difficult to do that, right? And this is still when we're here on Earth too, as well. So when we're up in space,
one tether at a time every
exactly.
time?
Yeah. So the double tethering means that we are always connected all the time. So we never float away in space. So what she's going to do now is get our wrench. She's just going to screw that just a little bit. And as you're screwing that, what's happening to you?
I have to move the thing up and down, and it's also connected to the harness.
Yeah, so the screw is attached to her, and if you don't hold on to the bar, what were you doing?
You'd float away.
You'd float away, right? But because you're holding onto the bar, you could see a bit ago that she was kind of moving as well. So that torque that she's putting on the screw is actually causing her to move as well. And that's something that astronauts have to get used to, because here on Earth, we don't have that. We have gravity helping us out with that. But when we're floating up in space, we're going to move around a lot more. And we can't really replicate that too well here on Earth.
Are you ready to be an astronaut?
No.
No?
Need a little bit more training.
A little bit more training. Well,
Yeah.
Marty did actually talk to Ann McLean, who is an astronaut who's currently training for an upcoming mission. Let's see what Ann had to say.
I'm joined by NASA astronaut Ann McLean. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you for having me.
In becoming an astronaut, did you face any hurdles to get there?
There's lots of hurdles. There's hurdles every day along the path. You know, the path to becoming an astronaut or achieving your dreams, no matter what they are, can sometimes be so long. You know, it really does take a lifetime. And there's small hurdles like, you know, you want to make a sports team and you get cut. There's big hurdles like tests that you don't know if you can pass, or that you know, subjects that you don't understand. There's hurdles every day, but the trick is just to keep going.
Now, you're in training to eventually go into space. What's that training like?
The training is really interesting. It's something different every single day. One of the most important things to being an astronaut that I've learned is versatility. You know, one day I might be speaking Russian, you know, learning a foreign language. The next I might be doing science experiments in a lab and learning how to pipette and sequence DNA. And then I'm flying a T-38 jet, or I'm getting in the suit and doing a spacewalk, you know, in the pool, a training spacewalk. And so we just have to be ready for something different every single day and being able to shift gears.
Now, you're a very experienced pilot, but from what you said earlier, it sounds very much like you're also training to be a scientist as well.
We're training to be everything. You know, what's really interesting, and my class got there in 2013, we came from all different backgrounds, and we always say our background helps us in about 5% of what we need to do, and the other 95% we're learning from scratch. And what's really cool about that is we can rely on each other. So when I went into a lab and learned biology, I got to rely on Jessica Meir, who has a PhD, and you know, and she's done experiments all over the world, and you know, that's her bread and butter. And so being able to rely on those experts, and then you know, we go over and we fly, and I get to help her out. And so it's and that's kind of really, we learn to depend on each other and each other's expertise.
That's really cool. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Sure, thank you for having me.
Abby, what do you know about coding?
Yeah, I actually have a little bit of experience with coding. I recently learned both Scilab and Python, which are two different languages of coding that are often used in physics and biology. And I also know that coding is pretty important for space exploration.
Absolutely is. So Beth has got a couple more friends, and they're working on a coding activity. Beth, how's it going?
Well, we're going to start on a coding activity. We're going to do a little computer coding. Now, I know this doesn't look like computer coding at all. Katherine, do you want to tell us a little bit what we're doing with this piece of rope and wire and beads?
Yeah, so we've got some beads on here. And how coding works is it uses binary. And that is going to be a series of ones and zeros put in different orders. And so what we're going to be doing is our initials with these beads here. There's 8 beads of each of our 3 different colors. And so we're going to just figure out the right order of the ones and zeros to put them in so that we can kind of code our names on there.
Or our initials. So for this, the wire, if it's a 0, goes
on the outside.
Mm-hmm. And if it's a 1, it goes on the inside. And you can look at these characters. What's your first initial?
Yeah.
R, so let's look up R. So it's
9
0,
letters
1,
in
0.
Well, we're just going to do our initials.
So out, in, out.
Okay. So what's your first initial?
Marty, we're going to get to work on this. How about you and Abby tell us what this has to do with the space program?
If it's a 0, we're going to
go. Oh, sorry about that. So, yes, the coding has a long history in the space program, and it goes all the way back to the beginning of the space program and the Apollo 11, the first mission to land on the moon.
And in fact, there was an amazing woman by the name of Margaret Hamilton. Margaret was known as the rope mother because her team wrote the software code and then programmed the guidance computer. The way they programmed the computer was with metal beads and wire.
They could send a signal through the wire, which would recognize it as a 1 or a 0, and that's how they were able to get the code into that computer. Now, here's the crazy thing. That selfie that we just took, the memory that takes up on my camera, or when you guys take a selfie, that selfie takes up 20 times more memory than the entire guidance computer for Apollo 11 that got us to the moon for the first time. 20 times more. That blows me away.
Blows me away also. I happen to know that I probably have a couple hundred selfies on my phone, and I'm sure that most of you do as well. So the question is, why aren't we on Mars yet?
I know. Let's go check back in with Beth and see how the coding's going.
How's your coding going?
It's going good.
It's going good? Is it easy?
Yeah.
It's easy? How's yours going?
Fine.
Fine?
Yeah.
You doing your initials? Okay, now let me ask you this. The Apollo program, the computer code, was 72,000 bytes. Do you want to do 72,000 of these?
Not really.
No? Okay, what if you made a mistake? You'd have to go back and find it. Would you want to go back and find a mistake like that? No? Okay, well, Marty, I think that we're okay doing our initials, but probably not coding for the Apollo program. We're going to keep working on this, sending it back to you and Abby.
Awesome, nice job, guys. Abby, are you ready for a few more questions?
Always ready.
All right, let's start with a video question.
Hi, my name is Austin, and I was wondering how I can become an astronaut and go to Mars.
How does Austin become an astronaut and go to Mars?
Yeah, that's a great question that Austin has. So the first thing is that Austin is definitely in the right age range. So everyone from Austin's range, so middle schoolers right now, all the way up even to college students like me are within that age range where, we're going to Mars. It's happening in mid-2030s. But in order for Austin to do that, he needs to focus really hard on his education. So he needs to get an undergraduate degree and then a master's degree and then probably also a PhD degree in a STEM field. So that's science, technology, engineering, or math.
Awesome. And I know Austin really also wants to know how he can send his sister to Mars. Any advice on that?
I don't really know, but Austin should probably talk to my older sister, who for a long time has been the president of the Get Abby to Mars Club, which might be because she supports me as family, or it might be that she just really wants me far away. I like to think it's the first one.
I think so. All right, let's go to an online question. Do men and women have an equal chance of getting into the program?
That's something that I'm excited to say. Now, yes. This most recent astronaut selection, in which 8 astronauts were chosen, 4 of them were men and 4 of them were women. So I hope that in the future, as I start to become an astronaut and as maybe some of these young folk become an astronaut as well, we'll get to see that same balance occurring.
Nice. All right, Ben, do we have any more audience questions?
Yeah, our next question is from Ben.
Hello. What is your motivation to become an astronaut?
What's your motivation?
That's a great question. So for me, it's been something that I've been passionate about since as long as I can remember, honestly, since I was probably 4 or 5 years old. I was really into science fiction, and I actually thought that I was going to be an astronavigator. And then when I was about 9 years old, probably, I realized that that wasn't a real position. And so I settled for astronaut instead. But it's just something that I've always been passionate about, with this idea of, going somewhere new, looking over that next hill, crossing that next boundary, and seeing what else is out there. So for me, that's what motivates me.
Nice. All right, Ben, do we have any more questions?
We also have a question from Erica.
Did you always want to train to be an astronaut ever since you were little?
Yeah, honestly, for as long as I can remember, I've wanted to be an astronaut. I've entertained other career options, but that's the great part about being an astronaut, is that it is not the end-all be-all of a person's life. It's actually just a small portion of it. So you have to be something before you're an astronaut, and you have to be something after you're an astronaut as well. So that means that I can be a biologist and a mathematician or a physicist or anything else, as well as being an astronaut. So for me, it was always something that was, there.
All right, let's go back to an audience question. Ben?
We have a question from Millie.
How long does it take to train to be an astronaut?
Yeah, so that's also a great question. Once an astronaut is selected, for a specific mission, they can train anywhere from 1.5 years to 2.5 years for that mission. However, that's usually for a 6-month mission. So for a 3-year mission to Mars, the training period might be a little bit longer than that.
All right, well, we've talked about some female astronauts today, but there are a lot of other females paving the way to Mars. Many of these are working behind the scenes.
Including veteran spaceflight engineer Charlie Blackwell Thompson, who will be the first woman to oversee a NASA liftoff and launch team.
NASA engineer Miley Chain is contributing to the Mars mission by helping us understand how humans collaborate with robots and automation.
And Julie Williams-Byrd is an electro-optics engineer helping to identify technologies that enable human spaceflight.
That is an absolutely incredible list of women. Well, we're out of time. Abby, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a blast.
I love that. I can't wait to see where your journey takes you over the next 5-10 years. That's going to be a lot of fun to follow along with that. We'd like to also thank explainer Katherine and our sponsor NASA for the show today. And we want to encourage everybody to tune in 2 weeks when we talk about World War I. 100 years ago this month, the United States entered World War I. And in 2 weeks, we'll be heading to the residence of the Belgian ambassador to talk all about it. Check it out. I'm at the National World War I Museum in Kansas City, Missouri, and check this out. This is a field of 9,000 poppies, each one representing 1,000 soldiers killed during World War I. What influence do you think World War I had on science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math? If you want to learn more about World War I, check out STEM in 30.
So today we are going to leave you with an animation of the sights and sounds of an SLS rocket launch.
This may be the rocket that takes Christina or Anne or Abby or maybe even one of you all into outer space and to Mars. Thanks for watching.